www.sellingsacramento.org/digital. She's selling Sacramento. She's selling Sacramento. She's selling Sacramento. Oh, yeah. 10 seconds. Is that 10?
I don't know. Doing it.
2, 1, go.
Hey everyone, it is Wednesday. You are listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and once again, we are selling Sacramento. This week's topic is there's a different type of housing bubble on the horizon. And I know that I had previously been saying that the housing market is not going to bust. But we are seeing there is something different happening. Something is a brewing. So our topic of discussion today, a different type of housing bubble is brewing. And it's not what you'd expect. I want to give you a little bit of background, and I've talked about it on this show before, but I want to remind you of what the housing bubble looked like 2007 to 2009. If you can recall, there was a tremendous amount of inventory on the market. New home construction was popping up all over the place. If you were in the market for a new home, you walk into a development, builders were giving refrigerators, microwaves, washers and dryers. They were giving all of those as incentives if you would purchase their new home construction. Backyards typically don't come completed when you buy a new home. And as an incentive package, some builders were incentivizing you to buy their homes by saying they'll throw in the backyard and have the backyard landscaped. So an excessive amount of inventory. Elk Grove and Natomas shot up at the same time. You could find homes in Elk Grove that look like Natomas. One of the differences between Elk Grove and Natomas is lot size. Natomas is built, newer Natomas is built where they have smaller backyards and they have parks. The builders have constructed parks intentionally around the neighborhoods because they don't have much lot size or lot space, and therefore the yard sizes are smaller. The reason I'm sharing that is to just kind of give you an idea of the difference between Natomas and Elk Grove. But both areas are similar in that they came up at the same time. A lot of the construction is very similar, and their newness, their desirability is about the same. Elk Grove has its own character, and Natomas has its own character. So there are some differences there. And then there are also differences, of course, geographically between the two places. But those were mainly the two areas back between 2007 and 2009 where we saw this bustling of enormous property, housing growth, housing explosion, excess inventory. Remember that. The second thing was financing. Do y'all remember the type of financing that there was? Predatory financing, when the market fell, became the catchphrase that you wanted to avoid like the plague. You did not want to be a lender accused of predatory financing. But that's what happened. There were a number of programs out there, pick a pay, stated income. You didn't have to show where you worked. I mentioned on here before, you could be working at Taco Bell and be a flipper because you're getting loans. to flip properties based on the potential worth of the property because of how fast the market was growing, because of how the level of desirability, the demand, another key word, the demand, right? We hear that word now, and I just want to put a pin in that word demand. The demand back then was about the same as it is now, with the difference between the excessive inventory and the type of financing that was available. The type of financing that was available, there were a lot of people who were in the finance industry who knew that the financing that was occurring was going to fail. They knew that the real estate market at some point was going to explode and fall, and people were going to fall on their faces, and people were going to lose everything. There were people who knew. And not to say that they knew and that they were at fault. Some of them knew and said they're not participating. I bought a home back then, and my broker told me, Keisha, that's not a good deal. And I said, well, as a real estate agent, I need to have a house. I've got to, how do I look? What do I look like being an agent and I don't own a home? He said, well, that's true, but right now is not a good time to buy because that's not a good deal. And I remember it was a like 1,200 square foot home off of Mac Road in Elsie, somewhere like that. I won't mention the exact street name, but $325,000, and my monthly mortgage was $2,200 a month. And I look back on that now, it was excessive. But he was right, because it would be a few years later that I would then sell that home in a short sale. So he was trying to protect me, and I needed, if I had listened to him when he said, now is not a good time to buy. Sometimes we can't be concerned with the way things will look to someone else if it's not in our best interest. And that was a lesson that I had to learn. I am not concerned about how what I do looks like to someone else. I'm concerned about my foundation and the things that will help me to get to where I need to be. And if that has to look like me not buying, or me not participating in an event, or me, being on a budget, me not being able to spend, me not, whatever I need to do to get my finances right, I cannot be concerned about what that looks like to someone else. That was a lesson that I learned from that. And so now going forward, 2007, 2009, excessive inventory, bad loans. What about the people? What about the players? Who were all of these people back then that were buying all of these homes? Investors were the number one culprits. Whether it was someone here locally taking advantage of an opportunity to flip, taking advantage of an opportunity to buy and hold, put someone in it, taking advantage of an opportunity to buy it, hold it for a little while, and then sell it to make some money off of it. A lot of people here locally were doing that because the market was supporting that kind of play. Then you have people from out of the city, from the Bay Area, or out of the state, or out of the country. We would learn later that there were huge Chinese investors, or not even a large amount. There were a handful of major investors, some from China, who bought up a tremendous amount of property right here in Sacramento. And when the market fell, when the market crashed, they pulled out. Now let's talk about why the market crashed. And I want to give you that information very plainly. Why did the market crash? Very plainly, when those bad loans were discovered, when the owners and occupants and holders of those notes could no longer pay, when they had gone as far as they could go, and the truth was made known, hundreds of thousands of people who were once potential buyers and who were once promoting and pushing the demand, remember that? Because they now were no longer financially able to sustain those plays they were making, they had to pull out. And when you pull out the demand, all you got left is what? Inventory. Now this $500,000 home is just sitting there. And if I'm a seller, in order for me to get that sold, I'm going to reduce the price. I'm going to keep reducing the price and keep reducing the price and keep reducing the price until the home gets sold. Multiply that times hundreds of thousands of homes. Now let's fast forward to today. What were the three things that I just mentioned were a part of the fallout? Excessive amount of inventory, bad financing, and investor greed. Do we have any of that today in our market? Out of those three, we have one: investor greed. We do not have an excessive amount of inventory, and we do not have a bad financial situation. As a matter of fact, the economy, and according to the federal government, most people are doing so well financially, they're getting ready to increase interest rates. So that would tell us that the environment, the market right now is not set up for a crash. In order for the market to crash, the demand would need to go away, and it's not. It's not going away. The demand for housing is still there on all sides, owner occupied and investors, with one big difference. A lot of people from the Bay Area who came over in the 2007, 2008, 2009, those folks from the Bay who came over as investors are now coming over to owner occupy. And so as a result, that puts increased pressure on housing demand. Demand is what pushes up the pricing. The demand is still there. The housing is not there. There are a couple of indicators that are going to produce a big change in real estate over the next few years. And it is going to be a different kind of housing bubble. And if you stay tuned in, we're going to take a break and I'll explain it to you. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I'm Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Will Taylor, I had been saying the same, but economics keep proving me wrong. Looking forward to this episode. Thank you for tuning in, sir. Yeah. Speak your truth. Thank you, cuz. Always, all the time. Yes. We're going to see. Let me see here. We'll share this. Get ready, get ready, get ready. So all of this music is already pre-programmed?
No,
Oh, you did. Oh, nice.
yeah, that's right.
All right.
The music is kind of my thing.
I like the praise music before this show comes on.
Mm-hmm. I played something. Oh, Katrina in there.
Katrina?
She was like, the ladies on her down there asked me to play some music show. And she was like, well, I like gospel. I said, what does that mean? She said, well, I like gospel. I said, I grew up with gospel. I love playing gospel. So, I tell you, that's why my brother at one point they asked me if I would do the gospel all at church. Because when I was sitting there praying, I would bring my whole another bring the
And you didn't want to do that?
But because of who he was,
The lady is a leader,
if he had,
and I'm talking
you know,
about you.
kind of insisted on it, I would have done it for him. But as a whole, just had nothing to do it. Man, heck no. Now, he's been asking me to do a morning show.
And I've dubbed women
So,
who recognize
if
this
he
fact,
would have
lady
made it
leaders.
Wednesday,
We're talking about
we
cultivating
kind of made it work.
attributes as
And then when I
leaders
started
like
working
this trait,
with you,
knowing the needs of
I said,
others.
okay.
I know, we don't mind
Then
doing
being
this,
out,
but
come here
tell our
out
man
early,
or
but
kids
there's some
that.
people in the morning
But
coming.
ladies have
Mhm,
this
mhm.
ability to read people to the degree of being able to know what's necessary at that moment.
Okay. Yeah, you would have been good for that too.
Oh, man.
Multi-talented.
When I see I got some gospel that'll wake you up.
Tristan does some nice gospel too before the show.
Yeah. Well, that's the last hour of the show's gospel.
Hmm.
I like that.
The timing is really good.
I'll sprinkle it in from time to time. Not like the main show,
Hmm.
but and then some like in the evening time on Thursday, sometimes I'll just make it a lot of stuff because I can't. 2, 1, go.
Hey, we're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. A different type of housing bubble is a brewing. Before we went on break, I explained what the housing bubble looked like in 2007, 2008, 2009, and the main three factors, which were excessive houses, excessive inventory, tremendous amount of inventory, you guys. Just remember that. There was inventory coming out of our ears. That's number one. Number two, the bad financial situation, bad loans. We were building a real estate moment made of sticks. It was literally doomed to fail. There were people who had enough knowledge to know that that was going to happen, but the rest of us had no idea. We just thought we were getting wild, and getting was good, and then the good getting got us. And then the third thing, of course, is the demand of the investors. The majority of folks who were buying these homes were not buying to own or occupy. They were buying to invest, get some money out of them at some point. So whenever you purchase an investment, when you participate in an investment, the intention is to make money. Housing is good for shelter, and it also serves the purpose of investing. Sometimes people who invest in homes don't live in them. And so that's what happened. There were a lot of people who were investing in those homes, didn't live in them. And when that price started dropping, they bailed. And why did the price drop? That's really important to know. The price started dropping drastically because the loans were bad. The financing was bad. Ultimately, those individuals who bought those homes saying that they could afford them could not. That is so important to know. The prices dropped because all of the people who bought, not 100%, but a large amount, could not really afford what they were paying for. And when it came time to pay the bill, the money wasn't there. That's why the prices dropped drastically. Prices over the past few months, I've been sharing with you how the market has been going up and down in Sacramento County, the median sales price since June last year. If you've been listening to this show, you know the median sales price in Sacramento has been fluctuating between $510,000 one month, $515,000 the next month, $520,000, $525,000, back to $515,000, down to $505,000, up and down, up and down. What's happening there? Inventory is not increasing exponentially. Inventory absolutely does not look like it did back in 2007, 2008, 2009. We do not have excessive inventory. Interest rates have been the lowest they've ever been, which increases demand. But what about that financial piece now? So remember, we talked about the financial piece back when the housing market crashed. What does someone who's trying to buy a home now look like? That person who's trying to buy a home is not typically an investor. The person who's trying to buy a home right now is typically someone who's trying to own or occupy. Even the person coming from the Bay Area now. This number that I'm going to say has not been fact checked, but I'm just going to use the expression. 9 times out of 10, the Bay Area buyer is looking to come and live in Sacramento. And so if they're coming to live in Sacramento, that means they're bringing their income with them. Their 6-digit income, 6-figure income. Sacramento has now become more attractive, especially after COVID, and employers are telling their employees, you can work from home permanently. So I don't have to live in the Bay Area anymore where it's so expensive. I can come and live 2-3 hours away from the Bay Area where it's more affordable. I get more for my money. And then there are up and coming amenities happening out here. Someone told me yesterday, Sacramento is a subset of the Bay Area. We're part of the Bay Area, the region of the Bay Area. And it didn't occur to me that that may be the way that other people see us. Imagine if the state of California started marketing Sacramento as a part of the Bay Area metropolis. Can you understand why our city would start looking more and more attractive? And now that I say that, I actually have seen, as there are talks about the speed rail project, I have seen instances where they connect Sacramento to the Bay, and there's one other area. It's a trifecta. I'm trying to remember where the third place is. If you're watching online and you know the name of the trifecta, type it in the chat so I can share it. But as Sacramento starts merging with the Bay, we are viewed as a mini metropolis. So back to, why are the prices flattening out? Because enough people are finally saying, that's as high as I'm willing to go. It's really very simple. It's not rocket science. This market moves based on how we move. There are external factors that also play a factor, but how those external factors impact the market still depends on how we respond to them. there are some things that will cause us to respond a certain way. For example, when construction supplies were not readily available for new home construction, there were window delays, the lumber prices had gone up. Our natural response to those is, oh, dang, what am I going to do now? Do I still try to buy this house while interest rates are low? That was what was going through most people's mind. And the answer was yes, a resounding yes. A lot of people still went for the new homes as the builders added the prices of the lumber to the purchase price. As the builder told you there would be delays, you said, no problem. I'm in it for the long haul because I want this low interest rate. And now there's talk of the interest rate going up higher. But not only that, the whole idea that now you got to get out there and compete. Builders are now making you compete. Whereas one time, remember, they were giving you washers and dryers and refrigerators. Now they're making you compete against the next person for the house that they've got a price on. $725,000, which is already crazy for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet in Oak Grove. But now you've got to compete. Now you've got to submit your best and highest offer for that home. And that's just ridiculous. And so that number that's going up and down is saying that y'all are finally saying that's just ridiculous. I'm not doing that. And now the feds are increasing the interest rate, which some people are saying they did it a little too late. Nevertheless, it's starting to happen. And it took a little bit for us to get acclimated to $2,000 plus mortgages. But it's going to take a lot of bit for us to get acclimated to $3,000 plus mortgages. Because that's what's going to happen with these high prices times those high interest rates. And therein lies our new housing bubble. When those rates go up, if those prices stay where they are, people are not going to buy. So what does this all mean? Especially add to that, new home construction is coming. If you've stepped outside of your home, driven anywhere, 5-10 miles any direction, you'll see that the builders are once again building. The construction is happening. And it takes about 1 year once they start building for the houses to be complete. So that's one subdivision. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So between the next 3 and 5 years, my estimate, barring anything crazy happening, we know crazy stuff can happen and get thrown in there and just throw off all of the things that we thought were going to happen. And I don't have a crystal ball, definitely not saying I have a crystal ball, but I will tell you that as people back out of the market, as interest rates go up, as more housing hits the market, and now that they've started building these homes, they can't stop. They're going to have to put people in them. They got to pay. There's construction that has been sitting for years that they need to pull the trigger on because there's an initial investment that has been made. So they've got to pull the trigger on all of this construction. And when they do, we are going to see a dramatic, not 2009 dramatic, but a dramatic drop in order for them to offload those homes. And when new construction hits the market, that's when those of you who own your homes get the itch and say, oh boy, this might be our time, but I'm not buying at that price, not at that rate and not at that price. And so the builders are going to reduce their homes, and new home construction, resale construction will follow suit. When that person gets ready to sell their home, they're not going to be able to sell. I am guessing that we will probably see a return of pricing somewhere between the beginning of 5 years ago. So have we reached a peak in the market? The stats are saying, yes, we've reached a peak and it's down from here. If you were thinking about selling your home because you want to get the most for it possible, if you've got somewhere to go that's going to be economically feasible, now is a good time, because we are probably peaking. Will you be able to sell your home if you decide that you want to wait until prices start to see where the prices are going to settle down? Sure, you can wait, but we don't know how long it's going to take to start seeing that settling. Right now we're seeing the market flatten. We have yet to experience this new bubble. I anticipate that it will probably happen based on the housing construction within the next 3 to 5 years. So how do you plan for something like that? Look at what you can afford, because again, at the end of the day, a home is an investment. And if you're planning to be in it long term, the number one thing that should be of concern to you is the monthly payment, the affordability. How much are you bringing in? How much can you afford to spend on housing? What does a purchase price look like based on what you can afford to spend on housing? And you wait for that. You wait for that. I know a lot of people who are buyers right now in the market who have been pre-qualified, pre-approved. They've got great employment, and what they qualify for, they are having an excruciatingly difficult time finding something to buy. To those people, I would say, don't give up looking, because you just never know when that door is going to be kicked open for you. Continue to look. Know that it's hard. Know in advance that it's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be you walking in the store, selecting what you want, paying for it at the cash register, and then walking out. You're going to be competing with other buyers. And if you've got that kind of fight in you, and a lot of my buyers do, then do it. Because just to be able to get in and find what you want, if you can afford it, if it's within your budget, get in that fight. You need to have a dog in that fight if it is within your budget. But just know that it has the potential of being a long fight. And that as time goes on, eventually it's going to happen for you. Don't give up the fight. Isn't that a song? Don't give up the fight. Like KRS-One, I know it sounds. What's the guy with the clock on his neck? Flavor Flav? Something like one of them. Yeah. Public Enemy. I think Public Enemy had a song called "Don't Give Up the Fight," something like that. Don't give up the fight. Stay in the race. because eventually it will happen, especially as we are seeing more inventory hit the market. I'm being careful to not say I'm predicting. I'm not predicting. I'm just saying this is what's happening. This is what we see coming. And so as a result of what we see coming, kind of like, okay, there's a tree 5 feet in front of you. If you keep walking, you're going to hit it. I'm not predicting you will. You might swing a left right before you hit it. Houses are coming. And they are going to need to be sold because the builders can't just sit on them. They're going to need to get them sold. And they are in the process of being built. And there are some that haven't been built that have to be built because there's money that's been put behind the projects already. It's going to take a couple of years for them to come. People are going to back out of the market because interest rates are rising. Don't be afraid of the interest rate rising. Look back at your budget. Get with your lender and find out what's your threshold. What's your purchase threshold as you see interest rates go up? Where's your pocket at? That's what you want to pay attention to. I want to read something from, which one do I want to read first? I want to read something about the potential housing bubble that is an article of out of Fortune. And it says, home shoppers who paused their search last year in hopes that 2022 would be friendlier aren't feeling great. We learned on Tuesday that year-over-year U.S. home price growth accelerated to 19.2% in January. That's up from the 11.3% uptick posted at the same time last year. The latest jump is also well above the peak annual rate, 14.5%, posted in the lead up to the 2008 housing bubble, and why equity is critical to business growth and success. That stubbornly hot housing market is beginning to raise more eyebrows. Look no further than a paper published this week by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas entitled Real-Time Market Monitoring Finds Signs of Brewing U.S. Housing Bubble. The Dallas Fed researchers came to that conclusion after comparing U.S. home prices to underlying economic data. And so they say our evidence points to abnormal U.S. housing market behavior for the first time since the boom of the early 2000s. Reasons for concerns are clear in certain economic indicators. Housing prices appear increasingly out of step with fundamentals, they wrote. Amid the pandemic, historically low mortgage rates and a demographic wave of first-time millennial home buyers helped to spur the ongoing housing boom. However, that alone can't explain the explosion in home prices. Another factor, argues the researchers, could be fear of missing out, FOMO, home shoppers who think they could be left behind if they don't rush into the market. That's concerning, considering that FOMO home buying was likely a key ingredient in the last housing bubble. Remember, I talked about that. The good news, while researchers at the Dallas Fed see a bubbly housing market, they don't think we're headed for a 2008 style crash. For starters, households are in, wait for it, much better financial shape. Didn't I say it? Back in 2007, 7% of U.S. disposable personal income was going towards mortgage debt service payments. At its latest reading last year, that figure was just 3.8%. What are they saying? Y'all can afford your houses now. For real. Based on present evidence, there is no expectation that fallout from a housing correction would be comparable to the 2007-2009 global financial crisis in terms of magnitude or macroeconomic gravity. Among other things, household balance sheets appear to be in better shape, and excessive borrowing does not appear to be fueling the housing market boom. Industry insiders are hoping that spiking mortgage rates, with the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate climbing from 3.11% to 4.42% over the past 12 weeks, can help to tame runaway home price growth before prices get so high that it leads to a bursting bubble. If rates rise above 5%, you will price buyers out of the market. The higher rates could also discourage investor activity, which accounts for a large portion of home sales today. And that's what Devin Bachman, who is the vice president of research at John Burns Real Estate Consulting, told Fortune earlier this week. Back in 2006, mortgage rates quickly shot up. Those higher rates, at a time when many households had variable mortgage rates, ultimately sped up the demise of countless subprime mortgages and set the stage for the inevitable 2008 financial crisis. This time, in theory, at least, rising mortgages should play out differently. While it will certainly deter some would-be buyers from entering the market, it will have little impact on homeowners. These days, around 99% of mortgages have fixed rates. See there? So in comparison to when the market fell out back in 2007 to 2009, many people had mortgage programs loan programs that were pick-a-pay, the flex schedule, rates where loan programs where for a year you're paying one thing, and then the next year, the first year you're paying interest, then the next year you're paying the principal, and then the principal shoots up. Not the principal, you're paying a regular mortgage payment, but then the mortgage payment shoots up to 3 or 4 times the amount that you were paying on just the interest. But the majority of individuals who purchase homes now are getting into 30-year fixed. And according to this article, it says around 99% have fixed rates. Mortgages fell out back then because they couldn't pay. Very simple. They couldn't pay. The mortgages shot up for too many people and they couldn't afford it. This article is saying, and it is confirming what I said earlier, people are in a much better financial position. Their mortgage is not changing. If they got pre-qualified, if you were pre-qualified for your loan, you can afford it because that lender asked you for financials before, during, and after you closed that transaction. The day before you closed, they checked your credit to make sure you were still working. For some of you, they even had you sign a document saying that if your job fired you, you were still going to be held liable for your loan. So the article continues that this week's busy economic calendar kicks off on a Tuesday when home price appreciation figures for January will be released from the Case-Shiller Home Price Index and the Federal Housing Finance Agency House Price Index. Mortgage bonds have broken convincingly beneath support at 99.766% and tested next floor at 99, which has held for now. The 10-year ended last week trading at around 2.4, blah, 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 stuff that I don't understand. So, but what I do understand is that that article basically came in and supported what I just said to you all. And that was from Fortune magazine, data from the feds as to where the housing market is headed, that we are headed for a bubble, but not the kind of bubble, a little bubble. Have you ever had one of those bubble things, the little container of bubble, and you put the thing and you blow it? Yeah, you blow it. Sometimes you can blow a big bubble. Poof. That was 2007, 2009. Then you blow it and you get the little bubble that boop right on the side. It's like, oh, shoot, I got to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of bubble that we're talking about. There's a bubble, but it's not going to be a big one that we need to be afraid of. When we come back from the break, I'm going to share another article. All of this is industry insider news, and you get it when you listen to 97.5 right here on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. You'll be in the know. I'm Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Hey, Miss Shalon, how are you, dear? You are so welcome. You are welcome. My pleasure. Yeah, I'm encouraging everyone to get ready. When I come back from the break, I'm going to share what I think everyone should be doing as we are waiting for this little bubble to happen. We want to get positioned. Let's see how much of this I want to read. Okay. All right. Industry insider news, y'all, coming up next. Hey. Oh, I forgot him and Anita Baker made this song. I love me some Anita Baker.
Yeah. Well, I like it until she got married.
Until she got married?
Yeah,
You hating on her getting married?
No.
Oh.
Her material.
Oh, her material went down. Oh. Yeah.
Her voice has always been magnificent. Her material. I still remember her very first album.
Yeah, that is true. It's like she just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, man, the material sucks.
She kind of went commercial for a minute, and then she went away.
And this is kind of what Mary J. Blige. I mean, too much complaining. Man, the problem is you. And every time you get to a relationship,
okay, this conversation just went left.
I'm just saying.
How did it turn into a woman bashing?
It's not. I was a particular person.
You said she turned into Mary J. Blige and started complaining. Woman is you.
I was talking about her.
She was talking, if you want to really go there, she was talking about how skank y'all men get.
Yeah, but the thing is,
tell the truth.
If all your relationships end that way, the only consistent thing is you.
Who was saying all her relationships went that way? Were you just
trying
to mock me?
Because everything she think about is the same thing. I'm gonna be all right. I'm fine. Apparently, you're not.
Oh, you're talking about Mary J. now.
That's what I was talking about in the beginning.
Okay.
That's what I said. I wasn't going to bashing. I was commenting on the material from what.
I hear you. Hey, Miss TC, great information. Give me a time to figure out a plan. Yes, absolutely. You got plenty of time. Who's
some of the best women?
No, I was saying
some of the best people on the planet are women.
Some of the best people you know on the planet are women. Okay.
So I'm not into women back.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, my best influence.
I'm just checking. You're sitting right across from me, talking about my sisters.
My daddy did good. My best influence really was my mom.
Okay. Yeah, y'all couldn't live without us, and we can't live without y'all. Let's tell the truth.
We want to.
Right.
And we are live.
Oh, we're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and today we are talking about a potential housing bubble being on the horizon. We are almost at the end of the show, so if you want to hear, if you're just tuning in and you want to hear what the discussion was all about, just go to Facebook or YouTube and look up Selling Sacramento, Agent Key, and look for today's episode about the housing bubble. And let's talk now about a plan of action. I never want to leave you all in despair and feeling helpless and hopeless. Where there is a will, there is a way. There's a solution for everything. I'm the ultimate optimist.
Okay.
Maybe not the ultimate, but I'm very optimistic. I'm always optimistic, always looking for, well, what could be? Well, what could we do in the meantime? So, as we are waiting for this new influx of inventory that's going to come on the market, as we are preparing to see what the feds are going to do with the interest rate, we know that we don't have control of the interest rate. There are certain things we don't have control of, but there are things we do have control of. Today is March 30th, 2022. We will officially have completed 1/4 of the year in a minute. 5 years from now, 2027 will be here if the Lord says the same. Tomorrow will be here for some of us if the Lord says the same. What can you do today that your future self in 2027 will thank you for? Think about the year 2015. Could you even imagine saying the words 2022? Y'all remember we were in 1980, 1990, anticipating 1999. Here we are, 2022. The clock is ticking. Time is passing. The only day promised to you is today. And I'm not going to say I hate to get philosophical. Y'all know I always am philosophical. But there are things that you can do today to prepare you for tomorrow. I just explained to you what's coming. We just went over what happened. Real estate is cyclical. Everything happens in cycles. Every 10 years, something different happens where the market goes up and it goes down, but it goes up and it goes down. But if you look at real estate over 50 years, while it's going up and down, it's still going up. It's only down for a little while. I'm saying that for those of you out there who are waiting for the prices to go back to 2007, you can forget about that. Please forget about that. If you are stuck on the mindset of having a $1,500 mortgage payment, living in a 2,300 square foot home, please forget about that. I beg you to condition yourself to something new, something different. I mentioned last week about when microwaves came out and how people were reluctant to get a microwave. And now, look, there isn't a house built without a microwave in it. Yet at the time, there was a lot of apprehension about microwaves. Think about that. Acclimate yourself. If you've been renting for any amount of time beyond the past 5 years, you're probably paying a rent that doesn't exist anymore for the home that you're in. First of all, jump up and down and thank God, and don't be in a hurry to leave from that place. If your landlord is nice and he or she hasn't raised the rents in a while, if your rent is in the low $1,000, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, praise him. Start the praise dancing right now. And start acclimating yourself if you want something different. If you want to buy a new home, acclimate yourself to a higher number. I'm saying that because I have actually had a couple of clients miss out on purchasing, and now they're shooting themselves in the foot, wishing they had pulled the trigger. There was one where they wanted to buy, and they were, this is our budget, and we're going to stay within this budget. Okay, so we make an offer, beautiful home, and everything about it was perfect. They would not have been sacrificing aesthetically to get into this home. This home actually had everything they wanted. The backyard, husband could see himself barbecuing, all of that, in a nice little court. And they're on the other side of life now, getting ready. They're looking for their little forever home. So the agent tells me, okay, to be competitive, this is what they need to do. And I share that with them and with their lender. And lender says, okay, that's going to mean an increase of, I'll just say, $26 a month on your mortgage. They said, oh, no, we got to stay within our budget. And I know why they said that. Because there's this fear when you do something different that you've not done before, your body will automatically send up chemicals to your brain to try to tell you to protect yourself. And unless you understand how to rationalize what's happening, you'll let that fear, it'll turn into anxiety, and you'll miss out. And I'm telling you, they regret that decision because we're still looking 2 months later. And guess what now? They've been priced out of that particular house. Now they have to look for something more. So if you are in the market to buy, I had another buyer, same thing, very similar happened. But for this particular buyer, they just didn't have the extra cash to throw. And it just made me think, God, I wish there was a pool of money where we could just pull from for buyers to just add to their transactions to help them out. There have been many times where I've actually come up off of some of my commission to help my clients get into their homes because I know they didn't have it. But if they were able to get in, they could keep it, right? I know that. So what am I saying? Prepare. If you're renting now and you're even thinking remotely about buying and you've been renting for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, prepare because the opportunity is coming. Preparation plus opportunity is going to do it for you. Preparation plus opportunity. You are responsible for preparation. The opportunity I just told you about, it's coming. So what can you do to prepare? 3 things. One of them is way drastic. And look at that, we're out of time. I can't even tell you. I'll tell you really quickly. Get your credit in order. Put yourself on a budget to save money. And if you need to look at changing career paths so that you can increase your income, do that. Don't sit back and say housing is not affordable, I can't afford it. Change your economic status. Change your situation. Put yourself in a position where you can afford it, for those of you who can. I'm Agent Key. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. And remember, if you're doing what you were created to do, I'll see you at the top. I didn't even realize that's at 159, right? Holy macaroni. You didn't even say nothing.
You were wrong.
You just let me chat. We are all
good.
still preparing. Hey, Miss Michelle, you are welcome. Yes, that's right. We got to have you back on the show so you can get up here and protest with me, girl. Yeah, many people saying they're waiting for a bubble. Yeah, good luck with that. I agree. We are still preparing, even with, yes, even with your approval, because the approval just kind of gives you a window to see through that where you are, right? So that if you, it's telling you you can afford this and here's what your payment will be. But you, who says you have to be satisfied with that? Maybe you want more. So now you go back and you look inwardly. You look at yourself. Is there something I can do better with my credit? Is there something I can do better with my financial picture? Is there something I can do better with saving? Can I get a second job, or should I lean into this career path that I'm thinking about? And where else can I make more money? Should I get into investing? Look at these other opportunities so that you can increase your wealth. The other thing, maybe buy a house with someone. Find someone else to go into the property with together. It doesn't have to be, a forever home. It could be something that just gets you out of a situation where you're paying someone else's mortgage and puts you into a situation where you're building your assets. And then let time go by and, create a plan to have your own. But allow it to be a stepping stone for you. But I got to go, you guys. I got to get across town to a property. Thank you all for tuning in. Yes. And I'll see y'all next week. Have a great weekend, y'all. Bye.